habol ako baka may instansya
Mm.
nito, sir.
Ano yun?
Sir, they are dividing yung
Technical and Vocational Education is hereby resumed. Chair would like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Bongo, who is online, as well as our invited guests this morning. May I ask the Secretary to kindly acknowledge for the record the presence of our invited guests, both physically and online. Claire, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Let me acknowledge the presence of the following resource persons. Those who are physically present are representatives from the Legal Education Board. We have Chairperson Ana Marie Melanie Trinidad. Good morning. Commissioner Lorenzo Reyes. Commissioner Joseph Serrera T. Attorney Aaron Mark Misa de Maano, Attorney Joral Ken Santo Domingo, Attorney Jerome Francisco Antones II, Attorney Jihan Eson, Mr. Salmir Barrios, and Ms. Rovik Releve. Also with us is from the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities, Attorney Ada Maria D. Abad. From the Commission on Higher Education, we have Executive Director Cinderella Haro, Dr. Maximo Alibe, Dr. Leo Camposano, and Ms. Blaise Del Regacho from the Office of Commissioner Marita Canapi. From the Department of Health, we have Dr. Alexander Leandro de la Fuente and Dr. Jose Gerard Belimac. From the Department of Budget and Management, we have Attorney Carlos Borja Jr. and Ms. Noemi Homilde. From the Philippine Mental Health Association, we have Dr. Anthony Gresha. From the United Student Financial Assistance System for Tertiary Education, we have Mr. Joe Havillano, Mr. Richard Ruiz, Ms. Amy Lombres, and Ms. Annalisa Gando. From the Coordinating Council of Private Educational Associations, we have Attorney Willard Yung and Attorney Christine Manawag. From the Philippine Association of Law Schools, we have Dean Soledad de Riquito Mawis, Dean Ted Pastrana, and Dean Nanita de la Cruz Tuason. From the Pampanga State Agricultural University, we have from the Office of Senior Deputy Speaker Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Mr. Julian Mislang Jr. From the Bulacan State University, we have Dr. Cecilia Gascon. From the University of the Philippines, Visayas Tacloban College, we have Dean Patricia Arinto. And from the University of the Philippines, we have Executive Vice President Jose Fernando Alcantara, Vice President Maria Cynthia Rose Bautista, VP Abraham Acosta, Mr. Roberto Lara, and UP Visayas Chancellor Clement Camposano. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Claire. We will be taking up 44 Senate and House bills this morning, and I assure you we will finish it. We will take it as they chronologically appear in the agenda. So if I may have everybody's attention in relation to the particular bill that will be taken up that might affect your particular sector, college, or institution. Items number 1 to 5, Senate Bill number 1508, 1630, 6416, 1786, and 1796. All seek to strengthen the mental health services of state universities and colleges and appropriating funds therefore. May I hear from Ched regarding these proposed bills?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Cindy?
Good morning.
Yes, Cindy. May I hear your position on these 5 bills? They are similar in all respects.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we are supporting the passage of these legislative measures, but we have few recommendations. One, Mr. Chair, is there is a need to identify the stakeholders in the promotion delivery of mental health services in the basic education. For the plantilla positions, it was observed that the plantilla is for guidance counselors only. The proposed bill might consider to include plantilla for psychologists. Um, Mr. Chair, we have noticed also that there are functions which should be added to the functions being done by CHED. So there is a need also to provide for additional office or plantilla positions to implement these provisions, Mr. Chair. As to the scholarship, Section 18, while this provision intends to develop a scholarship program for in-service teachers, who shall take the required master's degree or units in guidance and counseling. The Commission would like to recommend also providing government support scholarship dedicated to students who will take up baccalaureate degree on guidance and counseling with comprehensive benefits. These are our comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Noted, kindly submit your written comments within the week. May I also ask the inputs from the representative of PASOK? Sino ba yung representative natin ng PASOK? Is he or she here? Dr. Ronquillo? Wala. Hindi naka-online. Chair hereby orders that Senate Bill number 1508, 1630, 6416, 1786, and 1796 be consolidated and referred to a TWG for the proper consideration and inclusion of the suggestions of CHED insofar as the aforestated bills are concerned. Thereafter, TWG is directed to prepare the corresponding committee report on these Senate bills. So ordered. Number 6, Senate Bill number 1464. Do we have a student representative here? Meron ba kayo inimbita, Claire? Wala. May I hear from CHED, please, about 1464. Seeking
Mr.
to amend
Chair.
the Campus Journalism Act. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Chair. We are supporting the provision and the passage of this bill. However, there are a few questions, Mr. Chair, especially as to Section 7, which says that the Commission should implement a special program for campus journalism. So there might be some it might not be completely independent kung may ganito pong provision. So, clarification lang po, Mr. Chair. And considering that there are also some functions that we will have to do additional functions, there might be a need also for additional personnel on the part of CHED if we will do this, if we will implement this bill, or if it comes into law, Mr. Chair.
May I ask, what does the existing law say on student or campus journalism and journalists? Are fees still collected in schools, in SUCs?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I was not able to get the
Are
question.
fees collected in schools for student publication fees collected? Na kinokolekta ba?
That I'm not sure of lang po, Mr. Chair. I would have to check.
Attorney Abad, would you know?
Your Honor, with respect to private schools, we do still collect publication fees. As far as I know.
May we know your comments on this bill, ma'am?
Your Honor, we believe that this is a laudable bill except for two items.
Mhm.
Number one, on Section 6, that the student publication shall be autonomous from administrative intervention with respect to handling of its funds. There should be some kind of checks and balances, considering the number of cases involving mishandling of funds or failure to properly account and or liquidate the same.
Agree.
This is mainly due to the turnover when the members of the editorial board or its officers have graduated. Now, a second item is with regards to the discretionary provision, rather that the editorial board shall have discretion on whether or not they would appoint a faculty advisor. We request that this be made mandatory instead, that there should be a faculty advisor, if only to address technical issues and also to ensure the monitoring by way of checks and balances regarding the funds. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. Your points are well taken, Attorney Abad. But in addition to those points, for the record, the TWG should take into account Section 3E with respect to placement examinations and Section 3G, the manner of selecting the editor-in-chief. Also, Section 8 on student publication fees. This in addition to the points raised by Attorney Abad. And finally, Section 16, wherein sanctions will be imposed if someone should file a libel case against student journalists. That's part and parcel of the risks they have to face if they do become journalists, and we cannot impinge upon the rights of any persons who may be trampled upon with respect to any writing or any output or product that these campus journalists may have. In the TWG, Secretary is directed to invite a student council representative from both the private and public schools, as well as a representative of PACOR, Cocopea, and SHED, in order to weed out some of the provisions that need to be corrected in the proposed Senate bill. So ordered. Senate Bill 1464, therefore, is referred to a technical working group to take into account and consideration the suggestions made earlier for the record, coming from the chair and coming from Attorney Abad. We will await the comments of CHED with respect to this so that it can be incorporated as well. And as I stated, both public and private institutions, student representatives should be invited in the TWG. So ordered. Section C, rather number 7, Senate Bill number 1610. May I ask, Ched, ba't ako gagawa ng batas na ililibre to sa state colleges and universities? Sa libre naman na. Ma'am? Number 7, Senate Bill number 1610.
Yes, Mr. Chair. As to your question, Mr. Chair, under sa UACT po, Mr. Chair, undergraduate programs lang po. As to postgraduate degree programs, what is being
Hindi kasama.
offered is the student loan po. Student loan lang po, Mr. Chair.
Kulang pa ba abogado natin o mas kulang ang doktor at nurse? Gusto talaga ba yung dagdagan pa mga abogado sa mundo? I'm asking you, by way of policy, we gave scholarships for medical students, those taking up a medical degree or course.
Mr. Chair, kung kami po ba, Mr. Chair?
Opo.
Actually, may few comments din po kami regarding this bill, Mr. Chair.
Huwag muna, doon muna sa konseptong yun.
Sa scholarship, opo. Sa scholarship po, Mr. Chair, based on the implementation of our scholarship, ang talaga pong medyo kailangan po ay yung sa medicine po, Mr. Chair. Because we are also, of course, pursuing yung sa Dr. Para sa Bayan, although may provision naman na po tayo for scholarship sa Dr. Para sa Bayan.
Justice Villanueva, good morning.
Morning, Your Honor. Magandang
Ikaw,
umaga po.
kulang pa ba tayo ng abogado sa Pilipinas?
Well, we had the best bar ever last year.
Ang daming pumasa?
Yes, more than 8,000. So I think if there was any insufficiency in the number of lawyers, that might have a bit address it, Your Honor. But in general, I think the Supreme Court continues to administer the bar every year. So I would suppose, Your Honor, that we still continue to require the course.
Is there an ideal ratio of lawyers to citizens, like there is a ratio for doctors in relation to citizens? May ideal ratio ba ang Supreme Court dito?
Wala, Your Honor. I don't think there is. Sa courts meron, parang tinitignan namin, ang ideal would be like for every 10,000, at least one court. Kaya nga kulang tayo kung courts lang because we only have like 2,700. Tapos kung 10,000 ang pinag-uusapan natin, at least 11,000 dapat ang courts. But at any rate, siguro based on that, Your Honor, no, parang tinitignan natin na siguro yung ratio kung pagdating sa mga cases, at least ang ratio niyan would be like at least for every 2,000 siguro citizens, at least may lawyer, Your Honor.
1:2,000?
Parang ganon siguro, Your Honor, if we really need, if we think that we should provide all the legal assistance no needed by our citizens, Your Honor.
Kung pupunta sa PAO,
Ah,
kung magpa-practice privately, paano yun?
marami nga, Your Honor, actually the number of lawyers based on the roll of attorneys number is about almost 70, more than 70,000 since
Living.
pre-war, pre-war pa yon, Your Honor. So or post-war pa yon. So in other words, more than siguro mga 1/3 lang yan talagang engaged in the practice of law. Kaya konti, Your Honor, if that is the basis in looking at that, Your Honor.
Yes, but if you provide a scholarship, how sure are we that they will indeed practice and assist the public insofar as their legal requirements or necessities are concerned?
I think, Your Honor, there are some laws that require, especially those who recently passed the bar exams, for example, to engage in legal aid work, Your Honor. So similar to that, perhaps there should be some sort of
Nasaan yung bill? Pati na ano
condition,
copy ng bill?
Your Honor. There should be some sort of condition to at least provide legal aid service, especially to the unserved or underserved areas, Your Honor, insofar as newly passed lawyers are concerned. Parpassers.
Attorney- Thank you, Justice Villanueva. Attorney Abad, any comments on this?
Thank you very much, Your Honor. I
Tingin mo
believe
ba
that there
kulang
is-
din yung abogado? o hindi?
Yes, I think so, sir, because there is still a need to provide for quality legal services to the marginalized and the poor. There are not many lawyers providing for pro bono work. That is why the Supreme Court had enacted the expanded student practice rule. And besides, Your Honor, it is true, and I would believe that there are still a lot of lawyers that are still in the list of lawyers, but they are no longer practicing.
And what's the guarantee that they would?
Your Honor, in as much as we would like to have some kind of leeway, I also have one comment. The scholarship is intended for just public schools. We
I
would
saw.
like to have some kind of subsidy also for private schools. Law students are attending private law schools.
May I ask the representative of CHED, ma'am, hindi ba pwedeng ilagay na lang natin to sa TEST? Let's open it up and include postgraduate courses to include the study of law and let them go through the process of applying. Therefore, it will cover both public and private institutions depending on where the student is studying and if he or she applies and if it will be granted.
Mr. Chair, doon naman po sa prioritization po pwede po siya maisama. But Mr. Chair, financially po, to be transparent po, it cannot cover po. Kasi po ngayon, yung test po namin, it cannot cover nga po yung mga existing, yung applicants po natin. It does not cover the whole range of applicants po natin, Mr. Chair. We have not yet covered the full list of listahanan 2.0. We have not yet covered all of the students for private higher education institutions with no SUC
Cindy,
and UC, Mr. Chair.
Hindi, ko isa-subsidize natin lahat sa public at private, mas hindi nyo kakayanin. Do you even have an idea how much it would cost? Pag nagbigay tayo ng scholarship sa lahat ng naglo-law sa public at private, do you have a ballpark figure? Do you have an inventory of the number of students enrolled in the various colleges of law, both public and private?
Mr. Chair, yung LEB po kasi ang may jurisdiction po ngayon sa law programs. Sila po siguro may alam po.
May I ask anyone from LEB? How many students are studying law, 1st to 4th right now, And what would be the average tuition fee in both public and private institutions for this course?
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, ma'am.
Presently in SUCs, the average fee would be, the maximum would be 30,000, and if
Per
this
sem?
per year po, no, per sem, sorry, per semester.
Mhm.
And in private institutions, it would be a maximum of about 100 to 150,000, depending
sem.
on the institution, per sem ho.
How many students are we talking about?
30,000, no,
30,000 students?
all over, yeah, all over, yes. So there'll be 30,000 students all over po.
So if you average it off to
That'll be 75 to 100,000 times,
mag-average na lang akong 60,000 per sem, no?
apo, 30,000 per sem.
So that's 1.8 billion times 2, that's 3.6 billion. Gusto ba talaga niyo gumastos ng ganito kalaking pera para gumawa ng bagong abogado, Attorney Abad?
Your Honor, our tuition fees in Adamson are quite low, so I'm a little bit, but yes, we do need more lawyers, Your Honor.
Ma'am Cindy from CHED, 3.6 billion roughly. Magkano yung total funding sa TES?
If I remember, actually Unifast po yun, Mr. Chair. I just have
Yes.
a few, information. Parang as of now po, 18, parang around 20 billion, Mr. Chair. But that covers only the existing grantees, Mr. Chair.
Walang dagdag?
Wala po. Nabawasan pa po, Mr. Chair, for 2023.
Masakit yung ulo ko rito. Anyway, Chair will refer this to a technical working group as well, given the funding requirements and where the money will be obtained in order to get the money to provide for this and to get a more accurate survey as to exactly how much money we need to do it, including the mandate to look into the existing law insofar as Unifast and TES is concerned, in order to find funding for this purpose, because the last thing I want is to pass another unfunded law na malamang hindi naman mapapatupad dahil wala namang perang pagkukunan given the various priorities of the government right now. So ordered. With the understanding and apologies to the Legal Education Board, Senator Tulfo would like to be here when it is taken up. So I will defer 8 and 9 until Senator Tulfo arrives and proceed to Senate Bill number 1614. An act creating an advanced studies development program for exceptional employees from the government and the private sector, filed by Senator Angara. Raul, kailangan ka ba sa Legal Education Board?
Sana, Your Honor, I think I was invited in so far as that
O
proposal
gusto mo
is
sila na
concerned.
lang?
Okay lang po, Your Honor, kasi ang comment naman namin regarding that bill, proposed bill by Senator Raffy Tulfo is with respect to unang-una. Dalawa lang naman, Your Honor, I hope you don't mind me immediately going to it. Unang-una, yung composition ng commission, kasi ginawa niyang even, kasi nagdagdag ng isang representative,
Okay.
the law
So
professor.
it should be odd.
May vice chairperson dapat, Your Honor, kasi
Okay.
and then second, yung tungkol sa Sharia law lang, I think there should be emphasis in developing Sharia law and to come up with the Sharia legal institutions. Yun lang po, Your Honor.
Point well taken. I was asking so that I can excuse you already because I'm sure you have other more important things to do. You are excused, Justice Villanueva. Thank you for your attendance virtually this morning.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you so much. Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. Naimbag nga bigat yung amin apo nga pada-pada. Thank you.
Thank you. Going back to 1614, Cindy, ano to? Ba't di na lang kayo gumawa nito?
Yes, Mr. Chair, pwede naman po. Actually, although hindi pa po nakalaan lang talaga ang funding namin for government employees, Mr. Chair, kasi yung mga funding po namin that are available, talaga pong may provision po na faculty members o kaya naman po ay for higher education sector. Kaya when it comes to funding, parang medyo limited lang po kami for government
No, Cindy, what this
employees.
basically says is you consolidate any and all scholarships, both domestic domestic and foreign, and try to match it with other people. When I studied at Georgetown, I actually did that. You pay $50 and they match your ethnicity, your field of interest, your course, and then for a fee of $50, they send you all the available scholarships from various parts of the world and schools that you can apply for or apply to. Depende kung saan ka matatanggap. That's basically what this bill is saying, other than merely funding these scholarships. May I ask, is anyone in CHED doing that?
Not yet, Mr. Chair, especially for government employees, wala pa po.
Then I will assign it to you. Trabaho nyo dapat yan. No, you are in that field. You are exposed to this field. You should know what scholarships are being offered by the various corporations, foundations, schools, and then try to match it with Filipinos who might be interested to take further studies. I'm quite surprised that nobody is doing it up to now. Again, when I took up my postgraduate, that was in hindi 2000 1995. As early as that, you can actually pay to get a list of scholarships that may be available to you. I-assign ko sa inyo, darling, ha?
Yes, Mr.
Ma'am
Chair.
Cindy?
Mr. Chair.
Senate Bill number 1614 is referred to TWG with the directed result of including it in the mandate of CHED to so organize all the available and existing scholarships on a yearly basis, both public and private, from governments, from corporations, from schools, and make them readily available and published so that any Filipino, both in the public and private sector, who may be interested in taking up further studies may be so appraised and advised. Funding is not necessary for this purpose except for the additional staff. So ordered. Chair would like to recognize the presence of Senator Tulfo. Senator Tulfo,
Thank you,
tama-tama.
Mr. Chair.
Kalalampas ko lang dun sa Legal Education Board. Let's now take up on items 8 and 9. Senate Bill number 1639 filed by Senator Villanueva and Senate Bill number 1653 filed by Senator Tulfo. Both seek to strengthen the Legal Education Board, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 7662. Chair recognizes Senator Tulfo for any remarks he may want to make in connection with Senate Bill number 1653. You are recognized, sir. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Senator Francis Cordero. Good morning, as well as to our resource speakers and to everyone here today. I filed Senate Bill number 1610 and 1653, namely the Free Legal Education Act of 2023 and the Revised Legal Education Reform Act, not only to strengthen our country's legal education, but ultimately to improve everyone's access to quality justice, lalo-lalo na mga ating mga mahihirap na kababayan. In 2017, Congress enacted the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, but it excluded graduated degrees such as medicine and law from its coverage. Kaya po tayo nagkaroon ng Doktor para sa Bayan Act. Kung meron tayong doktor para sa bayan, bakit hindi tayo magkaroon ng abogado para sa bayan? Senate Bill number 1610 establishes free legal education program in our state universities and colleges. Under this bill, all qualified Filipino students who are taking up or will take up law in SUCs shall be exempt from paying tuition and other school fees. In return, they will be required to render service in the public attorney's office or any government agencies for that matter, lacking lawyers as may be determined by the Free Legal Education Board or LEB. Sa ganitong pamamaraan, matutulungan po natin ang mga Pilipinong nangangarap maging abogado at sila naman ay makakatulong sa ating mga kababayang nangangailangan ng hustisya. To effectively implement this program, I also filed Senate Bill 1653, which aims to strengthen the LEB, which will then be called the Commission on Legal Education. Under this bill, the LEB will be empowered with broadened authority and functions and a much-needed budgetary autonomy. It will no longer be attached to the CHED for budgetary purposes. This way, I highly expect the LEB or LEB to realize its full potential and uplift the quality of our legal education to long overdue educational reforms and pedagogical improvements. Ang hilingin ko lang po sana ay commitment from the LEB na makatulong sila para dumami ang mahuhusay nating mga abogado nang sa gayon ay hindi na mahirapan ang ating mga kababayan na humanap ng hustisya. In other words, I'm hoping that these bills will result in better access to quality justice for everyone. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tulfo. Earlier, we referred to a technical working group, the free legal education bill that you filed, in order to find out exactly how much we need to fund this, given that SHED said they no longer have any funds sufficient to add scholarships under the UNIFAS Act. So in order to determine how much is needed, we assigned it to a technical working group with a corresponding direction to report back to the committee, and so far as their findings are concerned. May we proceed to Senate Bill number 1653 on the Legal Education Board? Earlier, Senator Tulfo, Justice Villanueva, the court administrator of the Supreme Court, gave two very brief comments regarding the bills. Number one, the board should have an odd number, not an even number. He therefore suggests the creation of a vice chairman or vice president. Number two, that emphasis should be placed on the development of the Sharia law in the country, particularly in Muslim Mindanao. May we hear from the Legal Education Board your comments with respect to this bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, we'd like to manifest our appreciation for this, for the honorable chairperson and members of this committee for giving us the opportunity to present our side on this bill. We are profoundly grateful as well to the Honorable Senator Rafi T. Tulfo for accommodating, for sponsoring this bill on our behalf. The RA 7662 was enacted in 1993. Since then, there have been serious changes in legal education, in the landscape of legal education. There's also been the case of Pimentel versus Legal Education Board, wherein the Supreme Court has struck down some of the provisions in the current RA 7662, some for being unconstitutional, some for being ultra vires. And that's why the amendment of these provisions is very much needed. There's also a provision therein that the LEB shall be attached to the Commission on Higher Education for budgetary purposes and also for administrative support. But given the many schools that the CHED has to attend to, it has not been very attentive to the needs of the Legal Education Board. So for the most part, that would be the core of our proposed, for support for the proposed amendments of Senator Rafi Tulfo. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did this bill come from you? Did the draft come from the Legal Education Board?
Yes, Mr. Chair, yes.
And you discussed changes to your version?
Okay. Well, first of all, with respect to the composition of the board, there should be, I think it was mentioned by Justice Villanueva that there should be a vice chair, but we didn't have that in our proposal. With respect to the term of the chairperson and members of the board, it is currently for 5 years without eligibility for reappointment. Under the bill being proposed, there is an eligibility for one reappointment, at least one, at most one reappointment.
Do you agree with that?
I would agree with that, Your Honor, because there are many programs, many changes in the way that the Legal Education Board supervises law schools, and it would be good if we could see these changes take effect.
So babawasan natin o dadagdagan natin in order to make it an odd number?
Dadagdagan po.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a
Senator
question?
Tulfo is recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. What challenges usually do you encounter being an attached agency of CHED, especially in terms of budgetary?
Uh, our budget, really the budget being assigned to us by the Department of Budget and Management on the basis of the presentations of CHED has been very minuscule. There was a year, I think this was in 2016, where we received a budget of 5.4 million pesos from the DBM. And for the many years, we've been receiving on the average 20 million pesos. And that is really, really very, very insignificant. I think insignificant is not even the word for us to survive as the agency supposedly in charge of monitoring and supervising legal education. We have received a letter sent by the CHED to Chair Popoy Villanueva del Rosario, and we were furnished a copy of that letter. And therein, the DBM said that we are identified as a program of CHED, specifically development of excellence centers. That is why the budget assigned to us is always small because of that. It's
Budget
inter-
assigned to you, to LEB is small. And who determines as to how much budget would you receive for a certain year? Kayo ho ba yung nagbibigay ng program sa kanila nung maging budget ninyo? Or sila na lang na-decide for you?
We submit our proposed budget every year po, and it goes around 200 to 300 million. And
CHED
CHED,
in-slash po nila yon.
CHED determines internally our budget. So when they present it to DBM, it appears that it's slashed to a mere 20 million.
So ano pong justification ang binibigyan nila sa inyo kapag in-slash po nila yung budget, yung proposed program na ipinisinta nyo sa kanila for your budget needs for that year? So wala ko silang binibigay na reason?
Wala pong binibigay na reason. The only reason we may say they were discovered was that through the letter of CHED to DBM that we are categorized for all these years as a project of CHED and not as an agency attached to CHED for budgetary purposes.
So hindi po kayo nagpa-file ng motion for reconsideration, if you will call that, if you can call that, na para i-challenge sila na teka muna mga taga-CHED, ito talagang kailangan namin, and we know better than you kasi kami naman talaga ang nandito at ang nagpapagod at gumagawa ng trabaho at hindi naman talaga kayo.
Hindi po kasi po first of all we don't receive any feedback from CHED on how
No feedback whatsoever?
no feedback whatsoever.
They just slash the budget and then they don't give you the courtesy of letting you know, hey, we slashed this because number one, itong reason, number two, ito, number three, four, walang ganon.
Hindi po, and not only that.
So disrespectful itong mga taga-CHED
I-
sa inyo. Kahit dapat
Right
talaga
po.
maghiwalay-hiwalay na, magsulian na ng kandila. Di
Opo,
ka nga.
ganun po. Kasi there was even a time,
Bastusan tong ginagawa sa inyo ng CHED.
I would not disagree with that, Your Honor. There was even a time where now Speaker Martin Romualdez, formerly the Majority Floor Leader, instructed, or I think sent a letter to CHED after we had seen him to increase the budget of the LAB to give additional 50 million. That fell on deaf ears. And recently, Honorable Congressman Rufus Rodriguez, also during the budget season, instructed CHED to give additional, again, 50 million. Again, that fell on deaf ears. So we didn't receive any more than 20 million for this year as well.
What could be the reason ba't ginagawa to sa inyo ng CHED?
Siguro po marami. I'd like to think that marami lang po talaga silang ginagawa. But then again, if that goes on, wala na rin po kami magagawa. Sila marami, pero wala kami
I
magagawa.
understand what you're saying and where you're coming from. Ang sa akin lang kasi, Mr. Chair, kapastusan tong ginagawa ng CHED. Kung mag-slash sila ng budget ninyo na pinaghirapan niyo po yan na i-formulate kung ano yung nakakaganda para sa mga programa ninyo, sa ahensya ninyo, and then i-slash lang ng CHED ng ganun-ganun na lang without even telling you why and how and the reason really bakit they come up with this decision na para mag-slash ng budget. So kabastusan tong ginagawa ng CHED, Mr. Chair. Kaya talaga, ang aking request, magkahiwalay-hiwalay na kayo. Kumalas na kayo sa CHED. Kung ganito rin lang nangyayari every single year. Tama? Every year, ganito na lamang?
That's also our hope, Your Honor.
So lumilitaw, itong CHED thinks they're God. They can just do anything they want without explaining, without explanation.
Yes,
Parang they think they're God.
With the permission of Senator Tulfo, maybe clarify, kanino nyo sinasubmit yung budget nyo?
we submitted to CHED po, Mr.
And
Chair.
it's CHED that submits the budget
Yes,
of LEB to
through
the
the
DBM.
DBM. Opo.
Number two, for the information of Senator Tulfo, kahit sinong congressman at senador pwede magdagdag sa budget. But when they ask CHED to add to it, it means CHED should subtract from its existing programs. Kung kaya nga kumuha ng pondo para magpagawa ng kali sa isang barangay, ba't hindi kaya kumuha ng pondo mula sa ibang item sa budget para bigyan kayo ng 50 million? Can we hear Senator Tulfo from CHED?
Yes, pero prior to that,
Please
before
continue.
that,
Sorry,
okay.
sorry. Please continue.
So, yeah, I follow what Senator Cheese, thank you, Mr. Chair, na after you submitted your proposed budget to CHED, and then CHED would submit it to DBM, right? And saan po nang gagaling yung pag-slash? Would that be from CHED pa lang, ini-slash na o pagdating sa DBM? And then kapag na-slash na ng, halimbawa, DBM ang nag-slash, does DBM inform CHED the reason? And then CHED should inform LEB. Go ahead, CHED, please.
Ako na sasagot nun,
Okay.
Senator Tulfo.
Thank you,
Because I was chair of
Secretary.
finance for several years.
Okay.
Actually, DBM gives a ceiling or budget cap for each agency. Each agency will make of a dream scenario sometime this time of the year, February. Di ba? Budget call ngayon eh. So magsasubmit sila ng mga pangarap na budget ng kada ahensya, LEB included, SHED included, which would run in the billions. In the case of LEB, which would run in the hundreds of millions. And then DBM, between February and May, will sift through it. They will go back and forth with the respective agencies, trying to haggle and discuss within their respective caps kung ano yung ilalagay, isasama, hindi isasama, dadagdagan, babawasan. And this would all depend on the priorities of the president, given that it's the president's budget that will be submitted to Congress. Once it's submitted to Congress, you're correct, sir. It has been a practice na pag binawasan, tinatanggap na lamang ng mga ahensya yon. Hindi pinag-aawayan yun, hindi kino-question. They just accept the fact that that was the ceiling given to them. And there have been several conflicts between, for example, Congress, the Senate, Supreme Court, the independent constitutional commissions, whenever their budgets are slashed by DBM in the executive's proposal with respect to the proposed GAA. But at the end of the day, it is not discussed. LEB is not unique. It's not discussed with the agencies why it was slashed, what was the purpose why it was slashed, only that you have to work within these limits. Now when it reaches Congress, we have the power to reallocate these funds. We don't have the power to increase the budget, but we do have the power to reallocate items included in the budget and place it wherever we may propose and vote upon by plenary. So yun yung kwento ng budget. Malungkot, pero yun yung
Pero Mr. Chair, tama nga naman kayo, and then they have the right to slash according to what the President would dictate. Pero sa akin lang naman po, bilang kortesiya, at least man lang itong mga agency na na-slash yung budget, must be informed para malaman nila kung saan yung parte ng na hiniling nila sa na budget ay hindi na pala dapat kailangan pa o kailangan magtipid sila sa particular line of budget na kanilang request. Kasi naman Mr. Chair, sa pagkakaalam ko, pag mga favorite agencies, hindi na-slash yung mga budget. Hindi na po ako mag-mention.
Isa lang naman ang favorite agency eh.
Hirap po magbanggit, Mr. Chair. Meron pa iba na hindi ini-slash, pero pag yung mga hindi paboritong agency, slash na slash. Yan ang nakakalungkot po, Mr. Chair. Pag paborito nila, kulang pa to, dagdagan niyo pa to. Pagdating sa nadagdagan pa. Di ba?
I'll let you pray, Senator Tulfo. It's okay. AFP modernization is always increased year on year compared to the previous year's proposal. DPWH budget is increased year on year compared to the proposal submitted by the President. The same is true for UP, including PGH.
Hindi, example,
Year on year, it has been increased.
Example,
Compared to the proposal.
Example, DPWH, pataas ng pataas. Kaya nga po, tapos yung mga kalsada, panipis ng panipis. Habang tumataas ang kanilang budget, numinipis yung mga kalsada, substandard yung mga ginagamit ng mga
Naman umiikli lang.
Well, tama ka dyan, sir. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, umiikli, numinipis na. Umiikli na, numinipis pa. Yun eh. And then, sila yung tinatambakan ng napakarami bilyones na budget. Samantalang mga agency na equally important as well, ini-slash lang ng budget at will. Kung kailan lang na gustong islas, mag-islas lang sila. Yun
Actually,
unfortunately nakakalungkot, Mr. Chair.
I promised Senator Tulfo that we would sit down soon because one of the major reasons why I think it's easy to source out funds is if you look at the absorptive capacity of the agencies, sa laki ng mga budget nila, hindi naman nagagamit na pwede naman gamitin yung fiscal space
Mhm.
to fund, for example, LEB or other concerns. For example, ewan ko lang, under the helm of Secretary Vice President Sara Duterte, the school building program is delayed by 2 years. We allocate approximately 30 billion every year to build new classrooms, pero delayed siya by 2 years. Sayang yung fiscal space of 60 billion, hindi naman pala nila may implement this year. Tanggalin na muna this year, gamitin na muna nila yung pondo last year, implement it, then you have that space that you can reallocate. And that happens almost every year. Kaya lang, ang pangit tingnan dahil in-slash mo yung school building program. But then again, hindi naman nila mga gastos talaga eh. That's why year on year, we keep on extending the validity of the budget because they can't implement the budget. I'll answer
Yun
that.
nga, Mr. Chair, eh. They were given the budget that they requested, just like you mentioned sa DepEd, hindi nagagamit. Whereas, itong ibang mga agency tulad ng LEB, nagsubmit din sila ng budget na kailangan talaga nila, and yet ini-slash. Yung mga hindi nangangailangan, nag-submit na hindi naman talaga pala kailangan hanggang sa naging unutilized yung budget na ibinigay. Nasasayang. Sana, ibinigay na lang sa mga agency tulad ng LEB na every single cent ay magagamit nila yung budget na yon na isinabit nila.
I will
check.
work with Senator Tulfo to see that that will happen in the 2024 budget because 2023 budget is too late already to change or discuss. It can only be done via supplemental budget, which is rarely done, if at all. But to answer, Attorney Bad, the reason is all of a sudden DPWH required soil testing. Before the construction of any school, soil testing must be made and therefore, nagturuan sila, saan kukunin yung perang dyan? Wala naman din sa program. So nagturuan sila ng mga 1 taon sa walang nagawang bagong school. In the middle of it, nagpalabas ng bagong order ang DepEd na dapat maliwanag na nakatitulo yung lupa ng eskwelahan na tatayuan sa DepEd. Ang problema, mga 80% ng mga lupain na kung saan nakatayo yung mga eskwelahan, nawala na nung principal na nag-retire yung titulo, dinonate pero nawala na yung deed of donation. So legally, they cannot construct the school building on this parcel of land that is not yet titled in the name of the government. So, yan.
Galing mo, Mr.
Sakit
Chair.
ang ulo, no?
Tama nga naman. Expose yun.
Sakit ang ulo, no? So we passed a law on the titling of DepEd lands and authorizing them to expropriate, but it's still taking them time. I think they're only at 30+% as of last time I was here 3 years ago. Pero tama naman, baka magpagawa ka ng school building, binabawi ng mga eredero nung nag-donate na namatay na yung lupa. So baka sa dulo, manalo sila, may building yung pribadong may-ari ng lupa, nawalan tayo ng building.
So dapat from the moment na i-donate yung lupa, agad-agad magpalabas ng deed of donation.
Meron, pero nilalagay ng principal sa drawer niya, pag-retire niya, wala nang may alam kung nasan yun. There is no procedure in DepEd. I'm talking 3 years ago, Senator Tulfo, by which these documents are collected and gathered and actually processed with the ending goal and end goal of actually having a title in the name of the Republic.
So
of the
dapat
Philippines.
makasuhan yung principal, Mr. Chair, kung tatanungin. Kasi kapabayan yung ginawa niya na she knows better na that's a sensitive document, very important document na dapat sinasubmit sa DepEd.
Kung buhay pa,
Tinatago dapat at meron dapat isang safe doon na doon ilalagay yung
kung
mga
buhay pa yung principal, Senator Tulfo. Pangalawa, dinonate ng barangay captain, nung tumakbo siya, nung natalo, binawi na. Ang daming mga malulungkot na kwento tungkol dyan
O dinonate-
sa probinsya.
o dinonate na matagal ni Yorme, ni Gob.
Dinonate, tas natalo, dun sa barangay na yun,
Yes.
babawiin na. O
Exactly.
yung namatay yung mayor yung kapitan, yung mga kamag-anak, yung mga anak, yung mga apo, naghirap ang buhay, gusto nang bawiin. So, maraming kwento.
But the question, Mr. Chair, wala bang budget yung DepEd para sa pagbili ng mga lupa na itatayo ng mga school buildings?
It's a matter of allocation. At the end of the day, governance is about allocating scarce resources. If you're able to allocate scarce resources, then you govern properly. That is always the challenge for each agency. That is always a challenge, the challenge for Congress, how to allocate. Palagi naman kulang yung budget eh. Wala pa yata ang budget na sobra, siksik at liglig eh. Lahat ng budget naman kulang eh. So our challenge is, paano patamain? As I discussed earlier, I'm willing to work with Senator Tulfo in order to find the necessary fiscal space within the 2024 budget in order to fund the requirements of the LEB.
Thank you,
Because
Mr. Chair.
it can be
Thank
sourced.
you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If there are no comments, Chair directs that the concomitant amendments suggested by LEB and by Justice Villanueva of the Supreme Court be incorporated in the proposed bill of Senator Tulfo. I just have one question, ma'am. So saan na kayo under?
We actually under the Office of the President, Mr. Chair.
So directly na, Office of the President, parang Ched.
Opo, actually.
Next, how are appointments to be made? In the bill,
Through
it
the-
only says JBC kayo?
Opo, we're the only executive agency which is vetted by the JBC, Mr. Chair.
And this was not struck down by the Supreme Court?
No, not struck down at all.
Yes, but it says, shall be appointed by the President without prejudice from a list of 3 nominees prepared with prior authorization from the Supreme Court by the Judicial and Bar Council. Ano ibig sabihin nun?
Because the JBC is under the umbrella of the Supreme Court, Mr. Chair.
I know. I sat for several years in the JBC as chair of the Committee on Justice, but saan galing yung phrase na with prior authorization? This is the first time I came across such a provision.
I think that's in the original, that is in the original law po, Mr. Chair. That's not,
Yes, but JBC nyo na, ganun na. The Chief Justice sits as chair of the JBC, right?
yes.
He's supposed to speak for the entire court. Prepared by the JBC na lang, tanggalin natin yung with prior
Pwede.
authorization from the
Yeah.
Supreme Court. Because it means it's subject to a resolution by the court. En banc,
Correct. Yes.
in theory. When in fact the court en banc is represented by the Chief Justice in the JBC. In fact, his votes reflect that of the justices.
We agree, Mr. Chair.
Delete.
Delete, yes.
Secretary is directed to take note. It'll be deleted. Now, where does it say here that you are now under the office of the president, or it's just silent with respect to you being under CHED for budgetary purposes?
Because I think under the administrative code, if the agency does not, if the organ of the government is not reporting to any, then
Yes,
you
but
are
where does it
under.
stay here?
It's also silent, Mr. Chair.
Kindly work with our staff. Specify nyo na that the LEB shall be under the office of the president. The office of the president has about 70 offices anyway under it. This will only be one of them. CHED is one of them too. Pakituro na lang sa amin kung saan mo gusto ilagay yan.
Wait,
Not necessary now. Kindly work with our staff, with the committee.
we will do that, Mr. Chair.
Any other changes or amendments, Senator Tulfo, that you would like to make?
Okay na, Mr. Chair.
Pakituro na rin sa amin kung saan lalagay yung Sharia, yung sabi ni Justice Villanueva. Strengthening of Sharia.
Yes, we will do that, Mr. Chair.
Because it was not mentioned in one of the slated purposes of CHED, of LEB. Wala na po, Senator Tulfo.
Wala na. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you po.
Chair hereby orders that Senate Bill number 1653 in consolidated with Senate Bill number 1639 is hereby approved. Committee is directed to prepare the corresponding committee report, take into account. Yes, ma'am, Attorney Abad.
There are some representatives from the COCOPEA as well as the Philippine Association of Law Schools that are present online. They have some comments
On the
of
LEB.
which, yes, on the Legal Education Board bill.
Who?
And Your Honor, for the COCOPEA, we have Attorney Casey, and for the PALS, we have Dean Solmawis. As the legal counsel of the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities, we would just like to assert that We agree with the Legal Education Board's proposal for administrative, logistical, and budgetary independence from the CHED so that they may properly discharge its mandate under Republic Act 7662. However, we have some concerns regarding possible encroachments on our academic freedom, and this will be more elaborated by the Cocopea Council, of which we are just part of, Attorney Casey, and Dean Sol Mawis from the Philippine Association of Law Schools, Your Honor. They are online.
So, sino unahin natin?
Your Honor, sa Cocopea po.
Dalawa sila eh.
Yeah, Attorney Casey, please.
Attorney Christine Manaog. Ma'am, which one are you?
Sorry. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Attorney Casey is not present, Your Honor. I'll be appearing for Cocopea. I'm Attorney Willard Young.
Attorney Young, you're recognized, sir. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, good morning to everybody, the honorable members of the committee, and also the guest speakers. Just a short comment from Cocopea. We'll be submitting our position paper, of course, enumerating our comments on the proposed bill. But first of all, we support the strengthening, of course, of the LEB. It should be consistent with the constitutional mandate of reasonable regulation and academic freedom of higher education institutions. And there are certain provisions here that we would like to briefly comment on that may not be in keeping with said constitutional mandate. In particular, Mr. Chair, the bill appears to provide quasi-judicial powers to the LEB. Certain provision intends to authorize the LEB to hold hearings and other dispute resolutions, and even to review decisions of higher education institutions involving disputes which respectfully should be exclusively under the exclusive jurisdiction of these private or of these higher education institutions. In effect, Mr. Chair, the LEB will be authorized to review and even reverse the school's decision on discipline, admission, and even the grades received by students. And respectfully, this
Attorney Young, what section are you referring to?
Mr. Chair, I'm referring to
I presume
Section
you're
9.
commenting on a particular section.
Section 9, letter J and K. I, J, and K, Mr. Chair.
I, J,
And K.
okay.
And M, Your Honor.
Your comment, Chair Trinidad.
Thank you, po, Mr. Chair. With respect to letter I, it says there at the end, in the exercise of our regulatory and quasi-judicial functions, I think every administrative agency possesses quasi-judicial powers so that they will be able to adjudicate controversies. And in our case, it refers to
Sorry, let me correct you.
No, I'm
not
saying-
all agencies have quasi-judicial functions.
Okay, I'm sorry. In our case, our quasi-judicial function is in relation to our supervisory and regulatory power as an agency. And then, with respect to letter J, to hold
Ma'am, let's
hearings,
stay with I first. May I ask, does SHED have a similar power?
yes, it does. Yes, it does, Mr. Chair.
Like how? SHED sits in all of the boards. Anong appeal ang gagawin niya? Sa chairman ng board eh. No, give me an example of I. Give me an example of I. Letter I.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. With respect to complaints of students, with respect, let's say, their transcript of records,
Ma'am, letter I, ah.
letter I po.
Hmm?
Regulatory and quasi-judicial.
Ma'am?
I think this would be accreditation in respect to accreditation requirements. The CHED also has the power to give accreditation to higher educational institutions. So that is very much similar to Section I, Your Honor.
No, so Section I pertains only to accreditation of institutions? This is not in the original law, right?
No, it's not.
So what's your basis in having that power in the old law? Do you have that power in the old law?
Yes, I think it's 7662, yes.
Under 7662, do you have that power?
Yes, Your Honor, but I think in the, as an administrative agency, we have quasi-legislative powers as well. So in that sense, we are allowed, we have the authority to issue orders and memoranda
Asan yun, sir?
in the exercise of our quasi-legislative powers.
Ma'am, we're still on I. So where in 7662 does it state that you have that power to accredit?
I think that would be,
Credit is here. Here's to the administrative superintendent to credit list.
that would be Section D po of the old law, Section 7, Paragraph D, to accredit law schools that meet the standards of accreditation, Your Honor.
So that's what I pertains to? Yun lang?
Yes, yes. And also, we can include the last paragraph to perform such other functions and prescribe such rules and regulations necessary for the attainment of the policies and objectives of this act. That's the last paragraph under the old law, Mr. Chair.
Spaki, kanina ka pa nanggigigil. Sige na. Attorney Farolan is recognized. You may proceed, sir. What's your comment on I?
On letter I, Mr. Chair, actually, it's just a correction that reference made that CHED has a power to accredit. We don't
Kindly
accredit.
put the mic near your mouth.
The Commission on Higher Education does not accredit higher education institutions. Accreditation is a technical term that involves a voluntary process of subjecting oneself to the evaluation and leveling of the peers or organizations of peers of the institution. So we do not accredit. What we do is issue permits and government recognitions, Mr. Chair.
Who is you?
The Commission on Higher Education, Mr. Chair. I speak as as one of the representatives of the Commission on Higher Education right now, Mr. Chair.
No, may similar provision ba ang CHED dito? Resolve all matters involving acts or omissions related to your charter?
Not that I can recall of right now, Mr. Chair. In the same way it is written, it doesn't mirror that, Mr. Chair.
Ma'am, sure ka? Does the LEB issue certifications? You do, right? So ito lang yun. This only involves certifications.
Our express mandate is to supervise law schools. So by supervising, we issue circulars and memoranda in order to announce our policies to our stakeholders. Without those orders and memoranda, they will not be notified of our policies, which would really be in violation of, their rights as stakeholders.
No, I agree, ma'am. But what will you resolve? Nag-issue ka ng order. You issued a memorandum or series of memoranda, hindi ka sinunod. What will you resolve? Nag-issue ka na nga ng utos, di ba? Hindi ka sinunod.
Yes. Mr. Chair, because sometimes we also withdraw accreditation. We withdraw as a punitive penalties for law schools which do not comply with the standards set by the Legal Education Board. So they file their complaints and we resolve all those matters. That is what we mean when we say we resolve all matters, including acts or omissions in relation to RA 7662, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Letter J, hold hearings, conduct investigations, and other appropriate dispute resolution.
Mr. Chair, we hold hearings because we'd like to be fair to all the parties concerned. We conduct investigations. Those will be in the exercise also of our quasi-judicial powers.
How do you acquire jurisdiction?
I think it is by necessary implication because it's in our mandate to supervise law schools.
Courts cannot motu proprio acquire jurisdiction unless there is damage done and somebody actually complains. That's the limitation of the power of the courts. Somebody must file a case. In this case, you can motu proprio take cognizance and jurisdiction over a case.
Oh no, Mr. Chair, there's always have to be a complaint.
So magko-complain yung estudyante.
Opo.
What does speedy disposition of cases mean? To
Well-
hold hearings, conduct investigations, and other appropriate dispute resolutions. There must be
Because
something wrong with that phrase.
okay.
Anyway, to ensure speedy disposition of cases.
Well, because when it's an administrative agency, it is presumed that it has a technical expertise in the matter. In the case of legal education, we are tasked with the supervision of law schools or improvement of legal education in the country. So whenever there are cases, instead of them going to courts, then we hold hearings. We invite the parties.
But is this jurisdictional? I cannot file a case if I'm a student in a law school. I cannot file a case directly in court. I have to go through you.
That's a part with respect to violations of our policies, but with respect to disciplinary matters involving the student.
No, but you have a policy that that says that the school should do this or that. The school did not do it. The student now wants to sue, so you cannot file a case in court.
It
It has to
can,
go through you?
but that would be in violation of the exhaustion of administrative remedies, Mr. Chair.
Well,
I
if
think
that
to-
is raised in defense. Yes, but if it is not, it's not jurisdictional. So it's not the requirement.
It shouldn't be a requirement, but we also have the doctrine of
Chair,
exhaustion
pwede
of
makasingit?
administrative remedies.
Senator Tulfo,
I would
sir.
agree na dapat dumaan muna sa LEB para screen muna yung complaint ng mga estudyante before it goes to court. As it is, overwhelmed na po yung mga korte natin. Just like what happens on a regular setup sa mga barangay. So kailangan dumaan muna sa barangay yung mga reklamo and then yung mga barangay sasarain niya pag-ayusin kung kayang pag-ayusin at nasa batas po natin yan. At kapag halimbawa 1, 2, 3 hindi nagkasundo, first hearing, second hearing, third hearing, mag-issue yung barangay ng certificate to file action and that's the only time na iakyat yung kaso sa korte. Kasi kung each and every student would like to file a case in court against anybody, then ma-overwhelm po yung korte natin. Magkakagiwang-giwang na pong sistema. Kaya maganda po, there's a system in place na dapat duman muna sa LEB, pag-aaralan muna, screen, pag-usapan, kung pwedeng pag-usapan, kung pwedeng maayos, at kapag hindi naayos, then that's the only time bibitaw yung LEB, iakit na sa korte. Kasi kung diretso sa lahat sa korte all the time, ma-overwhelm po yung korte at mahirapan po ma-resolve yung mga kaso. That's just my humble opinion.
The point of Senator Tulfo is well taken. Related yan, Senator Tulfo, sa item K. Appellate jurisdiction. Spocky, does CHED have appellate jurisdiction with respect to controversies between higher educational institutions and their students, faculty, and staff?
None. There, appellate jurisdiction, none, sir. We don't have the, CHED doesn't have the power to overturn the decision of the governing board of HEIs, in most cases, Mr. Chair. One particular example where a decision of an HEI can go up to CHED and CHED can actually modify the decision when it comes to cases of expulsion and disciplinary actions where expulsion is the penalty imposed, which means the student cannot enroll in any other HEI in the Philippines. That is something that the CHED can review and modify. But other than that, there are rarely any our provisions on academic freedom of higher education institutions prevent CHED from acquiring appellate jurisdiction, Mr. Chair.
Pinakamataas
Mediation
the
is what we do at most,
is
Mr.
the
Chair.
board of the
Yes,
school,
yes, Mr. Chair.
and then thereafter RTC. Whoever is dissatisfied with the decision, right?
Yes, Mr. Chair. As what happens right now in most cases, there are a lot of cases that go directly to the courts, especially on matters relating to HEI policies on discipline and student and even admission issues, Mr. Chair.
Chair Villanueva, ma'am, item or letter K. Is this in
11K?
your old charter?
Oh, this,
Is
no,
in
this is not in our old
7652?
charter, but we appreciate the perspective of the CHED with respect to paragraph K, and we're willing to, actually in our LEBMOS, we only have appellate jurisdiction with respect to expulsion. So we are willing to adapt the,
Then let's specify that in item K.
yes, Mr. Chair, to have appellate jurisdiction over cases of expulsion and exclusion, Mr. Chair.
Wag na yung labor, in-exclude yun naman talaga yung labor, di ba?
Expulsion.
No, wag na yun sa labor. Expulsion ng estudyante.
Apa.
You're not talking of termination of a faculty.
No, not at all, Mr. Chair.
Attorney, sorry, what's her name? Yung?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just to add to the discussion, we recognize, of course, that to some extent, agencies like the LEB have quasi-judicial authority, but only to ensure that the parties comply with the letter of the law. But as regards the review of certain actions of higher education institutions, respectfully, these agencies should also respect the academic freedom of the schools. In fact, what we're trying to prevent here is for the board or other agencies to constitute themselves as admission committees. Because if that will happen, then of course this committee or this the board will be swarmed by possible complaints of students who say failed to be admitted to a particular school or who has failed to meet the standards of the school. If that happens, if these students will receive a failing grade, then they will be in effect have a recourse with LEB, which will now question and seek to overturn or reverse the decision of the duly constituted authorities of the schools, Mr. Chair. So with that, we would just like to possibly explore that the powers of the LEB be more specific, so that it will not be vague or be a general power, Mr. Chair.
No, we will clarify.
Yes.
For example, ma'am, kindly work with us. I agree with Attorney Yung. Let's clarify I and K. I think J is the power that you will be exercising because of I and J. So this has no place in between I and J. It can come later on, meaning in the exercise of your quasi-judicial powers, you have the power to hold hearings. It does not even mention here that you can issue subpoena, but it's a description of the power. I and J is your jurisdiction. So that should not be together. So we will arrange it accordingly, Attorney Yung, and clarify this matter and send you copies before we finalize it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Would that be satisfactory? Would that satisfy you too, Attorney Bud?
If I may.
Please, you may proceed. Ba't patay yung mic niya?
Thank you very much, Your Honor. We agree that there should be exemptions made into the law itself. We would like to propose that aside from academic requirements, admission, our grading systems and behavioral infractions likewise be excluded from the quasi-judicial powers of the LEB. There are already existing mechanisms for complaints within our university systems. Also, as regards discipline of faculty members and employees, and the determination of vicarious liabilities of schools, Your Honor, for complaints raised by, yes, Your Honor.
Already exceeded.
Okay, thank you
That
very
case
much.
should be clarified. They will not have appellate jurisdiction over those except with respect to expulsion. That's what they said, right?
Okay, thank you very much, Your Honor.
But what you're saying is expulsion based on a disciplinary action. Nagrambol, may
Your
sinaktan na
Honor, yes.
estudyante, in-expel nyo. Appealable, Taleb?
Yes, because that's an expulsion. If the penalty is expulsion,
It's in the manual
Pag-suspension,
po.
hindi.
hindi po, because expulsion is the extreme penalty, is most extreme penalty. That's why it goes through us, just to make sure that procedural due process is observed and also substantive as well.
No. If that is your intention, then you will clarify as well that it's not really appellate wherein you can reverse the decision of the school,
Sorry,
but
Chair.
only to ensure that the requirements of both procedural and substantive due process was complied with by the school? Because the student has recourse anyway.
Yes, Mr.
Other than
Chair.
through LEB.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that is our only concern.
Would that be middle ground, Attorney Abad?
Acceptable, Your Honor.
Okay. Any other points?
Mr. Chair, and also we'd like to emphasize that we in no way plan or intend by this bill to encroach upon the disciplinary powers of the school. That is definitely within the definition of academic freedom, how they discipline their students. So that's why if you notice in paragraph K even, without encroaching upon the academic freedom of the institution or intruding to the jurisdiction of the courts mentioned in the law.
Yes, that is in the lower part of K.
Apo.
Sparky?
There are a number of other items and points, Mr. Chair, that the Chair would want to express and
Hanapin
manifest,
nyo na nga sa budget, magkokomentaryo ka pa sa bill nila.
including that point, Mr. Chair.
Kindly make it brief. Go,
I-
Sparky.
yes, Mr. Chair, on the issue regarding the budget and with due respect to our Senator Idol being an avid fan and listener, hindi po namin iniipit ang budget. Mahal po namin ang LEB. Actually, kinikilala po ng CHED ang kahalagahan ng LEB. Wala po kaming balak sa Commission on Higher Education na pakialaman ang ating law schools dahil malaking tulong na nahiwalay po yon sa mga institusyon na minomonitor at in-evaluate at binavalidate po namin. Sa ngayon nga lang po, malaki na po ang trabaho namin sa maritime pa lang and all these other institutions, especially sa TECAP, yung Doktor para sa Bayan, that we really do appreciate that there is a LEB. Hindi po namin iniipit ang pondo ng LEB. In fact, it's napaliwanag naman po kanina ng ating chairperson, Senator Cheese. Kung kami lang po, kung pwede namin ibibigay po namin. Gusto po namin ng ginagawa gusto namin pong ibigay. Yun nga lang, limitado rin po kami, tulad ng ibang mga ahensya, kung ano ang pwedeng maibigay talaga. At ang sinasabi rin naman po namin sa LEB, kung kinakailangan, may mga pondo, kailangan lang nila magbigay ng mga realistic proposals, feasible proposals, na pwede naming hanapan ng pondo po. Tulad po ngayon, maganda siguro kung mapakita rin nila ano yung mga sa kasalukuyang budget.
Sir, define realistic proposal. In your own definition, what is realistic proposal versus dun sa sinabit nilang proposal?
Ganito po, siguro magandang ipakita sa buwan na ito, ano ang plano niyong gawin? Magkano yung kailangan?
But they already did that. When they submit their proposal, it's right there.
Siguro,
They
sir,
explained every single item that was being proposed. Hindi naman siguro sila magsasubmit, hindi naman siguro mga pulpul ng mga taga-LEB na basta-basta na mag-submit ng proposal na hindi nila gina-justify. So every single items there or every single words na inilagay nila doon, pinag-aralan na nila yon and they have studied it carefully. And then, pagdating po sa CHED, ipapasa po sa DBM and then you guys will act as God and then just slash the budget, yung kanilang pinaghirapan na para isubmit yung proposal sa inyo and without even telling them the decency and courtesy of informing them na, hey, inislash namin to because A, ito yon, B, ito yon, C, wala man ng kurtesiya. Kumbaga parang bastusan po. Yan po yung humble opinion ko lang
yung itatama lang po namin, sabi ko nga po, wala po kaming dahilan para basta-basta bastusin ng CHED na gano'n. Lumalabas na pambabastos. Hindi po namin ginagawa yon.
Sir, it's not only CHED. Ginagawa rin po yun sa mga iba't ibang agency. Yung sa akin naman po, sana from now on, Mr. Chair, magkakaroon ng practice na kapag nag-stash ng budget sa isang agency, not only LEB, dapat man lang the agency that slashed the budget should have the courtesy and decency to inform the agency na pinutulan ng budget para malaman nila kung bakit pinutulan. Para next time, alam na nila kung nag-submit sila ng budget for the next year, alam na nila na ito pala hindi pwede, ito pala hindi amendable doon sa submitan namin ng proposal namin. They know how to submit it. They know how to praise their when they defend the budget.
Kami po ay sumusuporta sa ganung panukala dahil kami rin po sa CHED ay talagang kinaltasan din po ng pondo, lalo ngayong taon. Yung sinasabi kong isang paraan po, pakita talaga ano ba yung posible na magawa. Kasi pwedeng manghingi ng budget pero yung kailangan mapakita, yung comparison sa
Sparky, nagsisisi na ako kung ba't kita ni-recognize.
Pero, hindi, bibilis ako na, sir.
No, we're talking about LEB.
Yes, Mr.
You're
Chair.
trying to answer a topic and a subject matter that was settled earlier already.
Yes.
And it's not doing
Just to
any good
continue-
to it, frankly.
Just to continue with the points raised, on that, hindi po namin sila iniipit. Pangalawa po, there's a provision in this bill that allows the LEB control over setting up the minimum standards for feeder programs to the basic legal education program. Unfortunately, these allied programs are not defined. Right now, we don't really have specific pre-law programs that feed into law. Anyone can take up any undergraduate program, and they can use that, and that would qualify them to be law students or to be admitted to the law program. Does that mean, is the intention now?
No. There are certain requirements, certain units in Spanish, social sciences. It's not true that there's no requirement.
Well, which can be cured by taking up remedial subjects, but as a rule, anyone can take whatever program, undergraduate program, and they can still proceed into the law, and that would still be a feeder program into law. For example, right now, our dean of the UP College of Law is a graduate of molecular biology and biotechnology, and he entered into law. What we want to be clarified here is that we have to be clear that the LEB covers only the basic legal education programs. They want even the postgraduate legal education program, but the words right now, as it is written here, would allow them control over feeder programs, which could be interpreted as
What
any
section
other.
are you referring to?
It's Section 9, amending Section 7.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Spooky just spooked me.
Yes, sir.
Ang pinag-usapan lang kanina, kaya ka ni-recognize ni Mr. Chairman ay magpapaliwanag ka tungkol doon sa budget na nag-slash kayo at hindi kayo nang babastos. Ngayon, pinahaba mo na,
Hindi, sir.
pinaikot-ikot mo.
The good chairperson asked me on the points to be raised by Chad, Mr. Chair.
What
With
letter?
quickly.
What letter?
Letter E, Mr. Chair.
9. I don't see any problem. Minimum standards for law admission to basic law program.
And the Allied Legal Studies Program.
Yes,
What
Your
is
Honor.
Allied Legal Studies program in?
This would be in Section 4, Your Honor. In the proposed Section 4.
What
Or is Section 9, Section 9 of the bill, which amends Section 7 of Republic Act 7662. Letter E.
I'm asking LEB.
The
What does
definition.
allied?
That is in Section 4A,
Section
Your
4A
Honor.
of the bill?
of the proposed bill.
Oh, this is not the pre-law course. This is for paralegals.
Yeah, that's it. That's the definition of allied legal studies.
Insofar as the course is concerned, it's in line with the requirements of the Supreme Court, including what I mentioned earlier, Spanish. 12 units of Spanish. Hanggang ngayon pa naman, di ba?
Wala na po,
Tinanggal na?
inalis na po.
Hindi na po,
Recently lang
tinanggal na
po.
pa.
Pag-memorize ko ng Sierra Dorada.
Inalis lang po, Mr. Chair.
No, yan, Spaki. Look at Section 4. It basically defines what allied legal programs are, allied legal studies programs are.
Well, in the latter part of the paragraph of the item, Mr. Chair, the program may also include a preparatory law program that may qualify the entry of students in the basic law program in conformity with admission to the legal studies requirements. It also classifies
Are you still
academic
talking of
program-
paragraph E?
It's now 4A, the definition. Under Section 4, 4A, allied legal studies program are academic programs intended to provide paralegals and other professionals with legal knowledge and skills that would meet the expanding needs of the public and private sectors outside the practice of law. Does this now include courses like business law, which are offered under business administration
Your
programs? Or in
Yes.
public ad, we have administrative law in public administration programs.
That's a course. That's a subject, not a course.
Your Honor,
But
if I may
they form
interject.
part of the program. These are
Yes,
courses.
but
yes.
that's a subject that's part of a course. That's not a course you graduate from.
But does that mean that the LB would have a say in those particular courses, Mr. Chair?
No, I mean, Spaki, you're confusing subject and course. A course you graduate from and obtain a diploma
program.
for. A subject is a subject that's part of a course.
Your Honor.
Attorney Abad?
Yes, this is also one point of contention by the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities. There are at least 27 schools offering legal management as undergraduate courses. Does this mean that the Legal Education Board will likewise have jurisdiction over these programs, Your Honor? Also with political science courses with major in paralegal studies or local government administration, will that be under the CHED or be under the Legal Education Board? That is what we want to clarify because there will be duplication now
Chair Villanueva?
of jurisdiction.
As your Chair Trinidad,
Yes,
sorry.
thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the legal management is under the business school. That's a business course. That's not a law course. So that's definitely not going to be under the jurisdiction of the LEB. Same with the other courses mentioned. If, what was the other course? Poli-sci, that's under the Social Sciences
Poli-sci,
Department of
Ako rin.
the institution. So that's definitely not going to be under the jurisdiction of the LEB. Anything that, the purpose of RA 7662 is really to remove legal education in all its aspects from the coverage of the Higher Education Act, Your Honor.
Attorney Abad, kindly suggest wording that will clarify the matter since Chair Trinidad is in accord with
Yes, sir.
your interpretation anyway. That is not part of it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Kindly
We will
submit
help.
to us suggested or proposed wording insofar as Section 4A is concerned.
Yes, Your Honor. Your
It
Honor,
relates to Section 9E.
Your Honor, if I may also.
Yes, ma'am.
The representatives of the Philippine Association of Law Schools would also like to comment.
Darling, kung alam mo yun, sabihin mo na lang.
Sir, hindi. Kasi sayang nandito na sila eh. Si Dean Sol Mawis po
No,
nandun.
since you're the counsel of both
No,
Cocopea-
no, Your Honor. I'm not the counsel of Cocopea. I'm neither the counsel of the Philippine Association of Law Schools. The proper representative is in the
Sino na
virtual. PACO, Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities. I told Ma'am Charlene earlier about it.
Dean,
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, Senator.
Dean Sol. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am,
sir.
kindly. What are your
Yes,
comments
Your
that
Honor.
haven't been touched upon?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Your Honor, Senator Escudero, Senator Tulfo. I am representing the Philippine Association of Law Schools. I'm Dean Soledad de Riquito Mawis. Your Honor, in fine, the Board of Trustees of the Philippine Association of Law Schools supports the amendments insofar as the administrative and fiscal independence of the LEB is concerned. We, however, have reservation on certain provisions as they appear to diminish the educational institution's right to academic freedom. We would like to implore this august body to kindly uphold the statement made by the Supreme Court in the case of Pimentel versus Education.
Ma'am, sorry, Dean Sol, what
Yes, sir.
provisions are you referring to?
I am referring to, Your Honor,
Go directly.
Section 2, the Declaration of Policies. We would like to suggest that the provision on academic freedom be included as a declared policy, even if it's already stated in the Constitution. But it will give us comfort, Your Honor, if in the Declaration of Policies, academic freedom is truly recognized. Now,
Nasa Constitution din naman, kakopyahin lang din. Okay lang yan.
Opo.
What other provisions
Salamat.
are you referring to?
I am also referring to Section 4A, the definition of allied legal studies programs. We joined the observations made by Dean Abad and also the representative of CHED. We really do not know what will happen to pre-law.
As discussed, ma'am, we will reword it accordingly to expressly show the intent of LEB, which is really not to cover courses that are not that do not pertain
Thank you,
to
Your Honor.
taking up of law.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then we proceed, Your Honor, to Section 4B, which is the nomenclature basic law program, because the law program is not, with all due respect, I think it's not basic. It's a law program. It's what is basic is the pre-law, but the law program is a higher degree compared to the law program. So it's a matter of words only, Your Honor. And then finally, Your Honor, consistent with our position that that there's a need to uphold academic freedom, we request a review, Your Honor, if possible, of Section 9A, subparagraphs A, C, E, F, J, K, L, and M, which were discussed earlier, Your Honor. May we be allowed, Your Honor, to submit a position paper on the matter to further elucidate our position, Your Honor, to the technical working group? Thank you.
Can I ask you to do something more? Submit the position paper and your suggested wording.
Yes,
that we
Your Honor,
can-
it will be our honor, Your Honor. To do
Throw
so.
it to LEB and we can facilitate the issuance of a committee report on this.
Yes,
The
Your
M?
Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair.
Commission.
Miss.
Ma'am, may I ask you, sorry, ang tagal ko hindi nag-practice eh. Yung pag-peg ng fine sa CPI, published by PSA, matagal ko ng pangarap to eh, insofar as the penalties provided for in the revised penal code is concerned, but I was told that this would be violating the right of an accused to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation against him and the crime he's being accused of. Kung hindi niya alam yung fine na i-impose dahil nag-adjust na pala, although this is administrative in nature. Is this legal?
Your Honor, we are going to publish and announce these reasonable fines that we are going to impose or that we are bound to impose.
How often? Yearly?
Well, at least once, Your Honor, once every school year, we remind them of we have a list of reminders for our stakeholders. And so they are duly aware of any changes in our policies.
No, the point I'm driving at is if you use CPI, then it's not 100,000 as a maximum anymore.
But it changes.
If inflation is at 6% or 8% per annum, then this will increase at the rate of 8,000 per year. Again,
but
it might be violating the right of an accused to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation against him because he doesn't know the maximum fines you can impose, given that it's pegged before or pegged at CPI.
Mr. Chair, the last sentence here states, as published by the Philippine Statistical Authority. I think all lawyers know that, their ignorance of the law will not excuse them, especially if it's published already, Mr. Chair.
True, insofar as the CPI is concerned, but you're pegging the penalties you can impose on CPI, which is a moving target. And this is the first time, quite frankly, if at all that I see a bill that I would have wanted this again, insofar as the revised penal code fines are concerned. I've been wanting this for quite some time, but I was told in the hearings we conducted on it that it cannot be done. So we have to amend it every so often in order to update the fines provided for in the revised penal code.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In that case, we are willing to withdraw the provided portion of paragraph M. We could stop at
Yes.
pursuant to this act.
Dean Sol, please take note and include that in your submissions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, sir.
Mr.
Thank you
Chair,
very much, ma'am.
last point
Yes, Paki.
on section 5. It's a clarification. This is more on a policy of the Senate. So this is a decision of the Senate. But the implication is that the Bangsamoro Organic Law would be amended, considering that the proposal is to cover all law schools, even those in the Bangsamoro area.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair,
On,
Secretary Trinidad, yes.
sorry, 7662 says that the LAB shall have jurisdiction over law schools, over all law schools, and it doesn't state any territory in that regard. So that should include the Bangsamoro region, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the Bangsamoro Organic Law is a fairly recent law, and it actually already amended all other laws related to all previous laws passed before it. And right now, we do have a Ministry of Education in the Bangsamoro, which has jurisdiction over all educational institutions in the region. So, but this, as I mentioned, this is within the powers of the Senate, so it's really a matter of policy.
Do you have a regional director for the Bangsamoro?
None, Mr. Chair. We don't have a CHED regional office for the Bangsamoro.
But there is a DepEd director there.
It's only
There
the
is a
HECBOL.
DPWH director there. There
We,
is a DPWH district engineer there.
as far as CHED is concerned, we don't have a district, or we don't have a regional director for the Bangsamoro. Under the Bangsamoro law, all of these are under the jurisdiction now of the Ministry of Education. What we do have is an office called the HECBOL, the Higher Education in the context of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, Mr. Chair, which is an additional task to one of the directors of CHED. But we don't have a regional office in the Bangsamoro area.
So what does that office do?
Actually, right now it's already defunct. Its term expired last December 2022, sir. It just expired. But previously it was to provide technical assistance to the Ministry of Education on matters relevant to higher education in the Bangsamoro. More of a transition office, Mr. Chair.
Point taken. It'll be considered by the committee, but it is my position personally, actually, for the record, that law schools in the Bangsamoro area should be under LEB. It's the same law that they're practicing, if at all, except for Sharia. And that is why earlier Justice Villanueva suggested that a provision be inserted insofar as the power, function, and duty of LEB is to promote and establish the Sharia system as well, which is not here now, right?
May I say that we have been talking to the National Commission on Muslim
NCMF?
peoples, yes, in order to promote or strengthen the Sharia justice law. We're also attending a summit being headed by Justice Dima Ampao next week, and that also involves the Sharia Justice Act. So we're also promoting Sharia law, Your Honor. And may I also add that in the Bangsamoro Ministry of Education Code, the agency to administer legal education is not mentioned there. So just like 7662, it is assumed or rightfully, safely assumed that LEB will also have jurisdiction over that. Thank you, Mr.
very
Chair.
much, Paki. Thank you, Attorney Trinidad. Thank you, Chair Trinidad. Any other points? Ay, awa ng Diyos. Anong we would just like na naman?
No, we will just submit our position paper
Yes,
as well,
please,
Your
ma'am.
Honor, with the wordings.
Let's chat, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please. Kindly submit it within the week, please, so that we can move on this. Hopefully, umabot bago kami mag-recess. Chair, again, reiterates its earlier order that Senate Bill number 1653 and 1639 be consolidated, the same being approved in principle, subject to the proposed amendments and changes and perfecting amendments that need to be introduced in the bill. Secretary is directed to spearhead this without need of forming a TWG. We will just be acting on submissions of our invited guests in order to hasten the proceedings. Thank you very much. So ordered.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much po. Honorable Tulfo, maraming salamat po. Mabuhay po kayo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you, Dean Sol. Nasaan na tayo? Tapos na yung 1614, ano? Senate Bill number 1704. Who can answer me? Why is this needed? Spaki, representative ka ba ng CHED? Di ba?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Actually,
ano to?
we have reservations to this because we
No,
already
Mr.
do have the CCAP.
Yes, boss.
so much.
There's a law.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Oh. Why do I need it?
This proposal was not from CHED, Mr. Chair. As far as we're concerned, right now we do have existing the legal framework to provide assistance to these exceptional government employees and even private sector individuals, Mr. Chair.
No. I'm talking about 1704, the PWD.
On our end, this would, having reviewed the law, the mention of specific additional funding and the amounts for inclusion as an addition to the CHED's budget is welcome, Mr. Chair. But there is already a law on this. But the additional budget with a law that defines and provides the actual amount would be very useful. But for us, we do have the legal framework right now for this to be done. In fact, all HEIs, not only SUCs, and a lot of other establishments are required to make sure that they are PWD friendly, Mr. Chair.
kindly communicate with the office of Senator Villar if he's still interested in the bill. Kindly communicate to his office that there is an existing law requiring all state universities and colleges to be PWD friendly and accessible. In fact, there are specifics with respect to the elevation and distance of elevation, which is basically 1 meter.
Mr. Chair.
Um,
Mr. Chair.
yes, who is
Hi.
speaking?
Hi, Mr. Chair. Hi.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'm from the National Council on Disability Affairs. Actually, sir, our comment also is that we already have Batas Pambansa bilang 344 or the accessibility law, which mandates actually not just educational institutions or infrastructure to be accessible to persons with disability, but actually all infrastructure. So right now, the law actually has been in place for over 40 years, but until now, I think the real issue here is actual implementation of the law, because if we look around, like there are still a lot of built environments which are not compliant with the law. Although, however, I would agree with Ched that of course, as representing the disability sector, we would always welcome any specific budget allocation, especially Your Honor, since that whenever we would ask why this is not fully implemented, the same concern is always raised that, well, budgetary issues. So if there is a very specific allocation for state universities and colleges, that would be very much welcome. However, our agency would like to submit comments to enhance the wordings or the language of the bill to make it more progressive
No,
because,
ma'am. I intend to archive this
oh, okay.
because we have approximately close to $1 trillion worth of unfunded laws. And the budget for any particular undertaking is passed through the General Appropriations Act anyway. So if Senator Villar wants this, then he can appropriate funds in the 2024 budget specifically for this in SUCs or in other public buildings.
We understand, Your Honor.
So again, Chair directs that 1704 that communication be made to Senator Villar with respect to this, stating that what's the Batas Pambansa again?
BP 344 or the accessibility law.
Because BP 344 already provides for this requirement insofar as appropriation of funds is concerned, then this can be done in the proposed GAA for 2024 or the passage of a supplemental budget, which would include, among others, this proposal. Kindly inform him that the committee intends to archive this proposal. Do we have a representative from TESDA? Ma'am, you're excused. Do you have a rep from TESDA?
Center na. Huh?
Sino? Deputy Director Umali? Deputy
Hello, Mr.
Director
Chair.
Umali. Asan ka, Director?
Hello, Mr. Chair.
Ikaw pala yan, dito. Okay. I'll take it omnibusly. Ito, Senate Bill number 1550, 1735, 1741, 1742, 1772, and 1773. All seeking to establish a TESDA training and assessment center in various municipalities and cities. May I take your position on the matter?
The agency, Mr. Chair, interposes no objection to the same. However, Mr. Chair, we just would like to put on record that under Section 29 of RA 7796 or the TESDA Act of 1994, meron po doon na ang parang polisiya po dapat ay i-devolve yung training function. So when we talk about lower, without saying it in a condescending manner, Mr. Chair, when this representation uses the word lower skills in terms of number of days or weeks, duration of training, in terms of the NC level that may be received, or a no TR, no training regulation program is involved, the same should be already devolved to our local government units, Mr. Chair. Yun po yung problema lamang, Mr. Chair, kasi the more we establish training centers like this, maybe no problem with assessment, Mr. Chair, because we need more centers where we could assess our technical education and skills development course completers. Yun lamang po. But other than that, Mr. Chair, if there will be a mechanism where the intent of the law on the devolution of TESDA's training function to local government units will be observed, we are okay with the bills, Mr. Chair.
Taking into consideration the comments of TESDA, subject to that limitation and qualification, this is not the first time that we have done this, and we are well aware of the law we earlier passed on this. And we will be passing these proposed bills with that knowledge in mind. And since it's on the record, then this will be a limitation insofar as the acts that we will be, rather the bills that we will be approving this morning. Any other comments, Lito?
The idea, Mr. Chair, ang sabi po ng aming Director General po dito, the ideal scenario, Mr. Chair, is when we say devolve, Mr. Chair, sinasabi ko lamang po, Mr. Chair, mula po sa aming Director General Dan Cruz, ay dapat the management of the centers should be with our local government units. Technical support, whatever, even granting of scholarship, allocations, where the trainings will be conducted. Yun po yung isang track pag sinabi po naming devolved to local government units, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Kindly submit, Tonito, proposed wording to reflect that. Huh? Kindly submit proposed wording to reflect that intention, so that we will incorporate in all of the Senate bills filed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Subject to the amendment as proposed by TESDA, Senate Bill number 1550, 1735, 1741, 1742, 1772, 1773, is hereby approved in principle. Chair, the Secretary is directed to prepare the corresponding committee report on the same as soon as the amendment or change in the wordings are given or submitted by TESDA. So ordered. Senate Bill number 6575, 6670, 6671. Who will comment on this? Sino sa inyong dalawa? Sino yung girl, Lisa? Sino yan? Hindi naman test. Hindi naman test na to eh. Shed? TESDA pa rin?
Polytechnic conversion yan, sir.
Tunisita, sa'yo pa rin yung Polytechnic?
Hindi na, sir. Sa amin na yun, sir.
Ha?
We're talking about, Mr. Chair,
Polytechnic, yung mga Polytechnic. Yung conversion into Polytechnic. Test din?
But we're talking about, Mr. Chair, Balicuatro College of Arts and Trades, Mr. Chair.
I'm talking about everything. Northern Samar, Agusan del Sur, Cagayan de Oro. Ha?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We interpose no objection to the measures we are tackling right now, Mr. Chair, subject to some minor amendments which we will submit, Mr. Chair, to capture TESDA's mandate with respect to assessment and certification of some completers of some courses, Mr. Chair.
Points are well taken. House Bill number 6575, 6670, and 6671 are hereby approved in principle. Secretary is directed to incorporate the suggested perfecting amendments coming from TESDA and thereafter to prepare the corresponding committee report on the three House bills. So ordered. Next, who will comment on this from Ched? Ikaw o si, what's her name again?
Attorney Haro.
Cindy ba? Cindy, yours, Paki. I only want one.
Yes, Mr. Chair, ako na po. Sa State Universities
Okay.
and Colleges.
Senate Bill number 1371, Bataan Crop Research and Development Center.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we interpose no objection. However, Mr. Chair, we have clarification as to Section 4. The center shall be under Commission on Higher Education, Department of Agriculture. It should be one, Mr. Chair. It should only be one, Mr. Chair, either CHED or DA. It's hard to have two bodies to head this, Mr. Chair. Also, Mr. Chair, as to initial implementation, which says that it should be CHED. It should be charged against appropriations for CHED. We might not have the proper sourcing for this, Mr. Chair. And CAP research requires a lot of money, Mr. Chair. So, dapat po medyo identify na po talaga yung initial implementation and where it will be sourced and how much will it need po, Mr. Chair. Thank you po.
This will be sourced from the budget. Secretary is directed to communicate with the Office of Senator Marcos to find out exactly what is the intention of the bill, if it will be placed under the Department of Agriculture or CHED. Insofar as the budgetary requirement is concerned, it will be included in the Annual General Appropriations Act and kindly amend for the purpose the appropriation section of the bill. Chair hereby orders Senate Bill number 1371 approved in principle, subject to the perfecting amendments introduced by CHED earlier and as suggested by the Chair, and for the Secretary to prepare the corresponding committee report accordingly. So ordered. Senate Bill number 1620, establishing a Bulacan State University system. Cindy?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Actually, Mr. Chair, we think that there is no need for a law declaring it as a university system. Actually, Mr. Chair, the Bulacan State University, with existing 5 campuses, is currently operating as a university system in accordance with the CHED definition of a university system. We have defined university system as including all of the programs, faculty development, internationalization of the academic program. It is an organized academic entity composed of separate but interrelated constituent units with a single board responsible for the formulation of system-wide policies and programs governing a university system. So actually, Mr. Chair, the current setup of Bulacan State University falls under that system or mechanism already. If yun po, Mr. Chair, and then as to the President, dapat po malinaw until the expiration of his term kasi yung isang bill po, wala pong, the President shall continue as President of the university system. So hindi po malinaw na until the expiration of his or her term.
Cindy, may I request you to kindly formally write us stating the position of CHED on the matter so that we can communicate with Senator Villanueva and ask him to reply or comment on the same regarding the necessity of passing Senate Bill number 1620, given that it is already a system recognized by CHED. Can you submit that within the week, Cindy?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Senate Bill number 1620 is hereby order deferred until we get feedback from the office of Senator Villanueva. So ordered. Senate Bill number 1699 and 1788 seeking to establish a College of Medicine in Benguet State University, filed by Senators Tulfo and Marcos. Cindy?
Yes, Mr. Chair. There should be a provision, Mr. Chair. We interpose no objection provided that there should be compliance with CHED requirements as to offering of the medicine program. And if I may also recommend, Mr. Chair, or manifest that yung intermed po, Mr. Chair, it is only accelerated medical programs po for medical schools with commendable performance for for at least 5 years lang po ang allowed ang i-allow po namin for intermed. So it will not cover new programs. So if it's possible to delete that program, the offering of intermed program, Mr. Chair, taking into account po that we will have a policy naman po regarding sa offering of intermed programs. And then, Mr. Chair, as to the compliance, actually medyo operational na lang po, Mr. Chair, but one of the problems po talaga that we have, one of the challenges that SUCs are encountering with respect to offering of new programs, medicine program, is the base 3 hospital. And based on our evaluation po, Mr. Chair, the only base hospital in may existing na po na base 3 hospital, pero it is being used po by other medical institutions po. So baka po doon magkaroon ng challenge po ang Benguet State University, Mr. Chair.
Okay, comments of CHED are hereby ordered to be incorporated in Senate Bill number 1699 and 1788, specifically with respect to the intermed program. Chair hereby orders Senate Bill number 1699, 1788, and House Bill number 6704, which was earlier referred to the committee as well, be consolidated. And the Secretary is directed to prepare the corresponding committee report, take into consideration the amendments proposed by CHED. So ordered. House Bill number 6128, seeking to create the Pampanga State Agricultural University in Florida Blanca campus. Sir, I'll just get the opinion of CHED. If they're okay with it, I will approve it. Unless gusto mong mag-explanatory note pa, wag na. Yes, Cindy.
We interpose no objection, but we have some reiterations, Mr. Chair. The proposed program offering should be in accordance with the mandate of PISAO, as stipulated in the law that established the SUC. And then the pertinent requirements of the Commission for the operation of a campus and its program shall be complied with. HBN House Bill 6128 on the establishment of PISAO Florida Blanca campus provides that it shall offer short-term and technical vocational education. Thus, it should be explicitly stated that higher education, the said campus shall have its own educational facilities, administrative and faculty complement, and its program offering shall be approved by the governing board and shall also comply with CHED requirements, Mr. Chair.
Sir, are you in agreement with that? Vice Mayor?
Yes, sir. Thank you po.
So Cindy, can you give us the corresponding wording in order to affect the amendment in the bill, in the House bill?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, House Bill number 6128 is hereby approved, subject to the perfecting amendments to be submitted by CHED. Thereafter, Secretary is directed to prepare the corresponding committee report. So ordered. Senate Bill number 1748. I will not recognize anyone from UP. I saw your position paper. I sit in the Board of Regents of UP. And I talked to Senator Marcos yesterday as well. Chair hereby defers consideration of 1748 while we await the UP Board of Regents meeting sometime in May in order to decide on this matter. I'd rather give it to the board, and Senator Aimee was in agreement with respect to the position taken by UP when I intimated it to her yesterday afternoon. So ordered. Senate Bill number 1780, separating Ifugao State University. How do you pronounce this? Potia campus from the IFSU in the municipality of Lamot, province of Ifugao. Cindy?
We have reservations about this bill, Mr. Chair. We think that the creation of a new state college entails more funding for the government. Considering that there are already campuses, Mr. Chair, on these areas, of course, naman providing for access, we support naman po any access, but additional support that can be done by additional support to be allocated by the Congress for upgrading of the faculty plantilla and other learning resources of POSHA and Lupo campuses of ISU. So based on our evaluation, it might not, there's no need for the creation of a state college for this purpose, Mr. Chair. And the separation of campuses may negatively affect the quality of its programs and services as a result of the distribution of its current human and learning resources, Mr. Chair.
Kindly communicate to us formally your position so that we can convey it to Senator Marcos. Do we have a representative from IFSU? Do we have one?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, may I be recognized?
Dr. Dugyon?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm President Eva Marico Damon Dugyon.
Yes, ma'am. What's your position on this bill?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we submitted our position paper and we have already manifested and signified our support to the bill that our dear congressman has filed, and that in behalf of the entire IPSU community, we again manifest our support to the passage of House Bill 1905, and we are one with the congressman of the Lone District of Ifugao, Honorable Solomon R. Chungalaw, in advancing the bill.
Ma'am, you heard the comment of SHED. How do you respond to that? What's your response to that?
Yes, if that is the comment and observation of the Commission on Higher Education, we adhere and we subject to that assessment, and we would still be working on the requirements needed for the passage of the bill if warranted.
No, ma'am, I don't understand. Sorry, I'm not saying you're wasting our time, but Ched sits as chairman of your board. How can you have a separate position from Ched? Ched says it's not necessary. Ched said it might affect the performance of the other campuses. Cindy, sino nakaupo sa board ng IFSU na commissioner?
It's Commissioner Marita Canapi, Mr. Chair.
So, Madam President, is this the position of the board? Is there a resolution passed by the board to this effect supporting this bill?
There was no resolution passed by the Board of Regents of IFSU, Sir Chair.
So this is your personal opinion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Kindly take it up before the board. Cindy,
Okay.
kindly inform the commissioner assigned to IFSU to discuss this so that you can have a consolidated position on this bill. Total naman, nag-uusap-usap kayo within the board eh. We will defer further consideration of Senate Bill number 1780 until we get that board resolution from IFSU for or against this proposed bill and what can be done in order to merge and reconcile the divergent opinions of both SHED and IFSU. So ordered. House Bill number 6552, San Isidro Satellite Campus of Leyte Normal to a regular campus. Cindy?
We have no we interpose no objection, Mr. Chair. However, we are recommending the following additional statement to Section 5 on compliance with SHED requirements. Within 1 year upon the effectivity of this act, all existing programs offering of LNU San Isidro Campus must have certificate of program compliance issued by SHED, and that all program offerings must be within the mandate of the university. Also including new programs. And as to Section 8 on appropriations, there should be a statement for the funding for plantilla positions of both the teaching and non-teaching staff. And instead, what we are recommending, Mr. Chair, is that instead of using regular campus, it should be a satellite campus because we have no definition yet for the regular campus, only satellite campus, Mr. Chair.
Points are well taken. Secretary is directed to effect the perfecting amendments suggested by CHED and thereafter to prepare the corresponding committee report. Committee hereby approves in principle Senate Bill number 6552 subject to those amendments. So ordered. Chair hereby orders House Bill number 5719 and Senate Bill number 1726 to be consolidated. However, the chair would like to instruct the secretary to redirect the bill. It is the position of this committee, while I am chair at least, that we will not pass any law adding to the curriculum of any course insofar as higher education is concerned. That should be the job of CHED, and that is part of academic freedom. In fact, the chair would go further. With the help of PACU, COCOPEA, CHED, and the Secretariat, can you kindly give me a list of all the laws that required a particular subject to be included in a particular course with the intention of repealing all of those laws and just simply give it to CHED or the institution of higher learning, given its academic freedom? If you change the curriculum, it is the position of the chair that if you change the curriculum via law, the only way you can remove it or add to it is via law again, which will hinder, hamper, if at all, adjustments that can and should be made as the times are changing. So kindly give that to us. Hopefully by end of March, sufficient time, by a month, in a month, so that we can review it. Ang dami ko na kasi nakitang batas na may-require environment, human rights, mga hayaan nyo na yung mga eskwelahan at SHED mag-decide yan, o DepEd, hindi na dapat sinasa batas yan. That is the position of the chair.
Maraming salamat, Your Honor.
So we will be consolidating these bills, and that will be the direction that we will be taking so far as these bills are concerned. So ordered. So further deliberation of House Bill number 5719 and 1726 is hereby deferred. And as soon as we get that information or data, we will be scheduling it for hearing again so that we can see ilan na nga ba yung dinagdag ng batas sa curriculum ng iba't ibang kurso. For some administrative matters, before we suspend, House Bill number 6129 is ordered consolidated with Senate Bill number 613 that the committee already took up. House Bill number 6553 is hereby ordered consolidated with Senate Bill number 1223, which we also heard previously already. House Bill number 6483 is hereby consolidated with taken into account in Senate Bill number 1359 because we already have a committee report on this same subject matter. Senate Bill number 1407. (1672, 1679, and 1708) are ordered to be consolidated and taken into account with House Bill number 5001, which is already for drafting of committee report. Senate Bill number 1628 and 6473 is hereby ordered consolidated with Senate Bill number 1351. And we are currently conducting a technical working group on the matter. Senate Bill number 1727 and 5087 is hereby consolidated with Senate Bill number 854, but with the same direction as earlier stated by the chair. Ito nire-require ituro naman yung National Building Code eh. Tama na. Isama lang doon. Isama natin doon sa World War II. But the objective is, again, that one. House Bill number 6687, Senate Bill number 1551, and Senate Bill number 1565 are hereby ordered consolidated and taken into account in the hearings of the subcommittee chaired by Senator Bato de la Rosa. Any other items or matters? Spaki, gutom na ako ah. Huwag ka nang humirat. Anything else? Chair hereby suspends the hearing. Thank you for your attendance. Sorry kung medyo lumampas ng konti sa lunch. Wala
Thank you very
kaming
much,
lunch.
Your Honor.
Punta na
Permission
tayo
to
sa
leave.
canteen. Good morning. Hearing suspended.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Permission to leave.